Hey gamers, it's me Mecha. Today I'm going to be going over a deck tech for my successful TLR's lands deck, Tannuk Memorial Ensign. Tannuk is a 2/4 for 1 red-green that has, whenever a land enters, Tannuk deals 1 damage to each opponent. If this is the second time this ability has evolved, draw a card. Notably, Tannuk can also do this ability more than twice to deal more than 2 damage a turn, which is very important. There are 6 distinct categories that we'll be going over today: recursion, protection, tutors, removal, threats, and the engine that holds the deck together. As well, we'll be going over our sideboard a little bit later. For now, let us begin with our recursion. We play 9 recursion cards in the list currently. First among them is Aftermath Analyst. Aftermath Analyst is a 1 and a green elf detective that is a 1/3. It has the text: when Aftermath Analyst enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. 3 and a green, sacrifice Aftermath Analyst. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This allows us to return multiple lands at the same time via the Aftermath Analyst. Next up, we're playing Crucible of Worlds. It's a 3 mana cost artifact, which simply allows us to play land cards from our graveyard. Next up is the best card in the deck. It's Life from the Loam. You know it, you love it. Return up to 3 land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Dredge 3. If you would draw a card, you may mill 3 cards instead. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. 1 green sorcery. Next up, Ramanak Excavator, which is simply a 2 and a green Crucible of Worlds on a body. The body is irrelevant, the ability is not. Now, these next couple cards may seem like odd choices to the uninitiated viewer: Tranquil Thicket and Shelter Thicket respectively. But they are an excellent combo with the best card in the deck, Life from the Loam. If you have, in the best case scenario, 3 open mana, you may cycle your Tranquil Thicket. Instead of drawing, dredge 3, return Life from the Loam from your hand, pay 2 mana, return up to 3 lands, including your Tranquil Thicket and 2 other lands of your so choosing, and then you have both cards. And you can repeat this process as many times as you so choose, as long as you have 3 mana. This one's a little bit more expensive at 4 mana. However, it is a fetchable land, which is quite nice. Next up, Shifting Woodland. Shifting Woodland is an interesting choice inclusion for a deck like this. It's a tap land that depends on us controlling a forest. It taps for green, and it has a Delirium ability for 2 green. It becomes a copy of a target permanent in our graveyard until the end of the turn. Now, this can be very important. It can loop itself with Aftermath Analyst to deal massive damage to our opponent with Tannuk on board. Or it can become a copy of some of the other cards in the deck if they've gone to the graveyard since. It's a very important piece that allows us to recur things without necessarily being able to always recur things from our graveyard. But it is possible for us to recur our creatures with 6. 6 is a 2 and a green, 2/4 tree folk with reach, and whenever 6 attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. As long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace, which allows you to cast them at the additional cost of discarding a land. Lastly, and certainly not least, is Wrenn 6. You will see Wrenn 6 many more times in this deck, and I'll talk about her a lot. She is probably the second best card in the deck after Life from the Loam, and she does extreme amounts of work for us every time she comes down. She has the +1 ability to return a land card from her graveyard to a hand, the -1 ability to deal 1 damage to any target, and the -7 ability that allows us to get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in our graveyard have retrace. I must say, I have never ulted Wrenn 6 in a game of Tiny Leaders before, but I will someday. The next category is protection. Now, I have cast quite a wide net when I say protection. Protection means a lot of things for this deck, and you'll notice there are quite a varied number of cards in this section. But I want to go over kind of the subcategories, what things kind of do, you know? So let's go over the first one, which is playing 4 basic and also playing Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Now, this deck, being a lands deck, is very scared of Blood Moon effects and wants to not have the deck be just completely offline if we get shut under a Blood Moon. So we're playing multiple basics of both kinds because Harbinger of the Seas and also Blood Moon being a thing. And we're also playing a Dryad, which if it comes down after the Moon effect, can return all of our lands to usability to be non-basics that are also basics. Next up, I'd like to talk about the life protection. So we're playing Zoran Orb. It's a new addition to the deck that allows us to sacrifice a land to gain 2 life. We're also playing a Constant Mist, which is a 1 and a green source instant that prevents all combat damage and has buyback sacrifice a land. There is a large amount of aggro in the meta, so we play both of those cards to help with our life protection until we can find Glacial Chasm. Now, Glacial Chasm is the best singular land in the list. By itself, it can prevent all combat damage and all non-combat damage dealt to us. Glacial Chasm is the cornerstone of this deck. Make no mistake. Glacial Chasm is extremely dependable and extremely useful every single game. Then we have our third category, which is kind of our miscellaneous. So Delight Halfling exists to protect our legendary spells from being countered. And Sylvan Safekeeper exists to protect our creatures. Same with Legolas's Quick Reflexes. Notably, Legolas's Quick Reflexes is also a removal spell. It's just that good. Next up in our sections, we have our tutors. Now, the best tutor in the deck is Crop Rotation. For green mana and a land sacrifice, it puts a land onto the battlefield. Obviously, great for finding your Glacial Chasm, great for finding your Dark Depths, great for finding your Thespian Stage, just great overall. Next up is Elvish Reclaimer. He's doing his best Crop Rotation in present. Unfortunately for him, he's not very good. But it's okay, we still love him. He can become a 3/4 later on into the game. And obviously, putting the battlefield tapped rather than just putting it on the battlefield for 1 green, not nearly as good. But repeatable tutor on a body, still pretty good. Next up, Expedition Map. Expedition Map is 3 mana to find a land, but it puts it into our hand, which is a notable downside. This is also a newer card that we're testing out. It could later become Arcatrua's Charm, but for right now, it's Expedition Map. Next up is an interesting tutor. It's Gamble. Let's go gambling. We search for a card, we put that card into our hand, we discard a card at random, then we shuffle. Now, this can have good and bad consequences, but most of the time, you're probably tutoring for Life of the Loam, and you don't really care if you discard that. Next up is Green Sun Zenith. Now, Green Sun Zenith is an excellent tool which allows us to search for every single creature in the deck. It's repeatable, and it puts the creature onto the battlefield, so as long as the Zenith itself doesn't get countered, the creature's coming down. Next up is Sylvan Scrying. Now, Sylvan Scrying is probably the second best tutor in the deck, just because it is a very efficiently costed, essentially a demonic tutor, but only for lands, which is fine, because we're a lands deck. Next up is Urza Saga. Now, Urza Saga is in the tutors category on a little bit of a technicality because Urza Saga exists to tutor Expedition Map or Zoran Orb. right? That's all he does. Making the bodies can be a nice thing, but it really is just here to find these two pieces. Next up, I'd like to move on to our removal category. Now, we do have quite a good suite of removal for a lands deck. Lands decks, usually in this format, unfortunately, are not really given to having very much removal, but we do have a pretty good amount. So we have 2 land-based removal sources, 3 spell-based removal sources, and 1 creature-based removal source. So first up, Besage, which destroys an artifact or enchantment or a non-basic land an opponent controls. They may search for a land with a basic land type, put it on the battlefield, and shuffle. This is green. It can be a Ghost Quarter, essentially, or a second copy of Wasteland. But obviously, it's mainly here to prevent us from losing to things like Underworld Breach, Food Chain, Blood Moon, so on and so forth. Flame Slash deals 4 damage to each target creature. Simple, easy, effective, does what it needs to do. Galvanic Discharge, same thing, just deals 3 to a creature or planeswalker. It's the only energy card in the deck, but it's all it needs to be. Then, my favorite card in all of Magic history, Lightning Bolt. 1 in red, instant, deals 3 damage to any target. Simple, powerful, effective, beautiful. I love this card. Then, we have one of the more interesting and multifaceted cards in the deck, in Moloch. It's an X red-green spell, which has the Ravenous ability, so if X is 5 or more, we draw a card. And it fights a creature an opponent controls, and exiles it if it wins the fight. Which it almost always does, because we have a ton of mana. Then, you know it, you love it, it's Wasteland. Once again, another cornerstone of any good lands deck. If Strip Mine were legal, Strip Mine would be here too, but Strip Mine is banned. Fortunately for everybody else who isn't named Mecca. I would commit so many crimes. So many crimes. Next up are our threats. Told you these 2 random 6 again, dead and 9. Moloch's here too. And, of course, the combo, Dark Depths, Thespian Sage. If you don't know how Depth Stage works, first of all, welcome to Magic. Second of all, hope you enjoy Titan Leaders. Third of all, you should play this deck. But you will put your Dark Depths on the battlefield, then you'll put your Thespian Sage on the battlefield. Doesn't matter which order they come in, just as long as they're both in the same place at the same time. You pay to copy the Dark Depths with Thespian Sage. Thespian Sage has no counters. It's a legendary copy of Dark Depths. You sacrifice both of them. You make a 20/20 Merit Lage, and then you kill your opponent in the face. Next up is Field of the Dead. Field of the Dead is a tap land, which is a colorless land. But it is a very good combo with our friend Glacial Chasm. Because if we're locking out the game for long periods of time by preventing combat damage and other damage to me, then we're going to have plenty of time to build up a simply massive army of Field of the Dead zombies. And when we're ready, we can simply not pay for our Glacial Chasm and then kill them in the face with a horde of zombies, as you do. Now, this card is a little controversial. Some players feel that this card shouldn't even be in this deck. Some players feel like this is a win card. Some players feel like this is a bad card. I personally disagree. Tannuk already draws us so many cards by himself. So why not triplicate that? And it's only a green. It's very simple to just have a green and then play a fetch land and draw 3 cards. That's like Ancestral Recall. You'd play Ancestral Recall if it was legal. This is Ancestral Recall. Play it. Anyways. Next up. Also, another good, extremely good card in this deck. Scythe Cat Cub. Now, this card is also very interesting in the fact that it can win the game by itself in the right situation. If we're set up in our engine section, which we'll get to momentarily, and we have a way to protect the Scythe Cat Cub, we can make the Scythe Cat card exponentially large, to the point where it is simply too functionally large for our opponent to ever block, and then kill them in the face, as you do. Also, shifting woodland, same thing. We discussed copies anything, can copy a Boreal Grazer and just become a loop. It's pretty good. Or a Boreal Grazer. A Boreal Grazer on the mind because it's the first. I've been aftermath analyst. Anyways. Alright. Last section, the engine of the deck. This is how we make the deck tick. And as you'll notice, all the lands are here. Except for the ones that we've already talked about. But all of them do need to be here as well. But this is how the deck essentially is going to function overall. So I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights here because, we don't really, I don't think we really need to talk about the fact that I'm playing, fetch lands and shock lands and, I'm playing lands in my lands deck, Mort 11, right? But let's hit the highlights. So starting off with a Boreal Grazer. It's simple, effective, green mana, reach, 0/3, puts land if you have an extra, which you always do, because you're a lands deck. Then, exploration. Simple, green enchantment, play an extra land every turn. 2 lands a turn, twice as fast. Next up, in our highlight section, Commercial District. Commercial District is an interesting land which I often recur because it allows us to look through the deck and put things into a graveyard at will. And that's pretty much it for the engine section. This Yavimaya is in the protection section as well because it allows us to tap our colorless lands for mana like Dark Depths and Glacial Chasm. So that's why that's there. But over there, that's mainly just a footnote. Now, onto our sideboard. This sideboard has pretty much changed very quickly, very recently, because of the meta shift that was caused by Ketramos, the New Dawn, being banned. Rip Bozo, smoking the Ketramos pack. But it's pretty similar to what it was. So, first up is Allosaurus Shepherd. It's a green elf shaman. That's a 1/1. That says it can't be countered. And green spells control can't be countered. Now, one could argue that you want Frenzy Baloth instead, which is green for a 3/2 with Trample and Haste that says green creature spells can't be countered. But I find that Allosaurus Shepherd does the job just fine. Search Baloth, Green Sun Zenith, and overall does the job. And we also have redundancy with Delight Halfling anyway. So if we're against really heavy blue, we can bring this in, but usually it's just Delight Halfling. Then we're playing Brotherhood Sin. It is a bimodal 1 red sorcery, which allows us to either deal 3 damage to each creature and planeswalker, or destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. So both of these modes are relevant at various times. 3 damage is usually pretty much a board wipe for our opponents, and we're playing mostly 4 toughness creatures, so usually it is not for us. And then obviously against any artifact deck, destroying all the artifacts is really good. Then we're playing Disruptor Flute. It's a simple but effective artifact that allows us to Pithing Needle a card at flash speed. The spell mode is a little bit relevant if you're Pithing Needling a commander, but honestly, most of the time it is just for like activated abilities. Then, Endurance is our hedge against mill. So it flashes in, and it can also evoke in with a green card. For 1 green. It is a 3/4 with reach, and whenever it enters, up to 1 target player puts all the cards from their graveyard onto the bottom of their library in random order. Hedge against mill. Yep, that's pretty much it. Next up is the interesting part of the sideboard. This is in contention. It might end up changing, but we'll see how it happens. It's Ground Seal for 1 green. When it enters, you draw a card. And cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities. Now, the reason why this is in contention is obviously because it does interact interestingly with the best card in the deck in Life Alone, and one of the better cards in the deck, Remnant 6. However, there is a lot of target-based graveyard hate running around, and we need something to answer it. So usually, if I know my opponent's bringing graveyard hate against me, I'm going to bring the Ground Seal in just to try and lessen that as much as possible. Obviously, graveyard hate is extremely painful for a lands deck because we rely on graveyard to recur things a lot. So usually we'll bring in the Ground Seal and probably leave the Life from Alone in. That card never comes out. But we might consider taking out Remnant 6. Next up is Natural State. Once again, we're scared of Blood Moon. We're scared of Back to Basics. This kills them both. Also kills your artifacts, so no more worries about getting 12-12'd by the Curie deck. We're playing Relic of Progenitus mainly because it is player target based instead of graveyard target based graveyard removal, and also can just be a 2-mana exile all graveyards and cantrip. Then we're playing 2 sideboard protection spells, one for creatures and one for permanents in general. Mostly I have found that Legolas's is generally enough by itself, but Royal Treatment's nice because it gives a 1/1 and a ward, and obviously Tamiyo's can protect lands and Remnant 6 as well from like a kill spell. And then lastly is Torpor Orb. We don't have any creatures save Moloch that have ETB abilities. And if we are in a situation where our opponent has a lot of those, we would just swap the Moloch for the Torpor Orb 1 for 1 and completely shut their deck down. So that's everything. Now let's talk about the deck in general, how we interact with the meta, and obviously some of our win lines. So first and foremost, as I've already discussed a little bit, this is a lands-based deck. We're looking to do one of two things. We're either looking to combo off with a Dark Depths Thespian Stage. Generally speaking, that can happen as early as turn 3, and obviously at any point in the game. Or we're looking to lock the game down with a Glacial Chasm Loop, draw them out of the game with Tannuk, and then finish them off with an army of zombies via Fill the Dead. We draw so many cards, and they have to spend time and resources trying to remove Tannuk, which we're obviously playing ways to protect. And we're playing other threats, and most of our threats are not like battlefield-based threats, they're lands. So it's very difficult for most decks to interact with the game plan. However, there are a lot of decks that still we have to watch out for, a lot of decks we have to respect. So we're going to be milling ourselves a lot because of Life of the Loam. So we respect mill a lot. We have to respect aggro because this is a deck that, unless it's going to combo off, is going to be rather quite slow. So we have the Constant Miss, we have the Glacial Chasm, we have the Zuran Orb. Last thing that we respect is combo. Now, main board, I will say there's not a whole lot we could do against combo. If we like see it coming, like you see a Rocco deck, you're like, okay, I'm holding my Boseiju forever and ever, amen, so that whenever they try and food chain, you can pop it. Same thing with like a Rao. So Boseiju is a great piece to hedge against combo, but then we obviously get to bring in our Torpor Orb and our Natural State post board, and it helps even more. I have also, on more than one occasion, Disruptor Fluted Food Chain, just to make it cost 6. That is also an option. Then lastly, probably the second most difficult matchup for us behind aggro is Control. Now, I have started hedging a little bit less against Control, because the Control deck prevailing in this format, Aminatu, is less of a counterspell based control and more of a removal based control. And generally speaking, they only play one way to remove the really core piece, Crucible Worlds, So the chances of them finding the pieces they need to remove Crucible is overall fairly low. And as long as we can keep Crucible on the world, we can pretty much just keep going, despite pretty much anything. That Amanatu deck also doesn't play a whole lot of ways to win, and we're genuinely just faster than them, even with our Field of the Dead line. So, as long as we can keep Crucible, we can keep on keeping on. Lastly but not least, let's talk about Lance Mirror. Now, if you should end up facing a Lance Mirror, the big thing to note is if you're on the play or the draw. If you're on the play, my recommendation is to just go for the Dark Depths line as quickly as possible. The best thing to do against lands is just to end the game. Because if you let this deck get into the mid or the late, you're going to lose. Tannuk is just waiting in the command zone to draw cards. So that's why aggro is also so dangerous for us. But overall, I've played this deck in a couple leagues now. It's had some pretty good success in a couple of leagues, and it's had some pretty mixed success in another couple. It recently got top 8 in the Reborn Rumble. Shout out to them in California. And I think this deck is extremely solid. I find it very fun. There are obviously some pieces from Legacy lands missing, such as Tabernacle at Pendreville and Caracas, but those cards are banned, and Strip Mine, of course. So, honestly, the reason why I was overall drawn to this deck is because of how much of similarity you can draw between it and Legacy lands. Now, not being able to play 4-ups is quite saddening, but we are getting most of the pieces here. Most everything is here. There's like a pretty good amount. The 2-card combo with Analyst and Shifting Woodland is great, like plan like D at that point, right? So it's honestly, this deck just has so many ways to just win out of nowhere, or even like in a way that your opponent can see coming, but they just can't do anything about, because most people aren't playing ways to interact with lands on the battlefield. Most decks just don't play Wasteland, or if they do play Wasteland, they don't play a way to recur Wasteland. It's like, okay, you Wastelanded me, and then I'm just going to recur my land. Now we're good to go. Overall, I would say that the main weakness of the deck is definitely aggro. That's the deck to look out for. If you're getting aggro against you, the best thing to do is kind of just pray for Glacial Chasm loop early with Exploration, Crucible, and Glacial Chasm. Honestly, that's the best thing to do. I would say that this deck does struggle very hard against aggro, and it's very difficult. But I have won more than my fair share of matches, I would say. Overall, I really appreciate you coming to learn about Tannuk. I hope you enjoy playing the deck, and I hope you enjoyed how it works against the meta. Thank you, stay tiny, be gay, do crime, have a good day.